Hi. So today we're talking about geometric sequences, day 2. So remember that with a geometric sequence really means that we are just multiplying by the same number each time. So arithmetic, we are adding, and geometric, we are multiplying. Now, for today, we're going to learn how to write the geometric sequence equation. So we know that arithmetic sequence equations look like y equals mx plus b. Well, geometric sequence equations, they look like this guy, a sub 0 r to the power of x. So there are two different parts, just like there were with arithmetic sequences. There's the a sub 0 part, and then there's the r. So a sub 0 inside of that box that you're going to write down in, a sub 0 is the number that came before the sequence started. The number that came before the sequence started. So it's actually the same thing as our b value in y equals mx plus b. Remember that we had to work backwards for it? We're going to do the same thing here. We have to work backwards to find that a sub 0. Okay, so that's what's going to go inside of your a sub 0 box in your notes. And then r is our common ratio. So that's just the number that we multiply by each time. Kind of like our m, the number we multiply by. Right, and remember that that number is going to be the same number each time because we want it to be a common ratio. So those are the two parts of the formula, and we're going to do 3 examples together, just like we did with the arithmetic sequences, so that we can get the feel for how to write these equations. So, our first example is 6, 12, 24, 48. So again, your first step is to kind of just figure out what's happening in this formula, right? Each time, in this case, I have a common ratio, or I'm multiplying by 2, because my answer from before is just doubling each time. So we might say that we are multiplying by 2. 2 is my r, or the ratio. And then the b part comes from the number before. That's our a sub 0. So in this case, we want to think about what came before the 6 in this sequence. So we have to work backwards. To work forwards, we said we were multiplying by 2. Opposite of multiply, to work backwards, would just be to divide by 2. So 6 divided by 2 means that the number we came before the 6 is really just the number 3. And then finally, we want to put it all together. So the equation, and I think I put it at the top of your paper, remember that the equation is y equals a sub 0 r to the x. So in this case, y equals my a sub 0 is the number 3. And then my r is always going to go inside of parentheses. So the r is the number 2. And then to the power of x. And x is always just going to stay as an x. Typically, the r is the only one that goes inside of parentheses when we write these equations. Because again, just remember, I'll put a little bubble over here. Your equation is y equals a sub 0. And then parentheses, your ratio to the power of x. Okay, so that's what our equation looks like. Let's try another one. Number 2, start with our common ratio. So figure out what we're multiplying by each time here. Again, this was that tricky one where we were flipping our signs each time. So what I like to do when I think about these is just forget about the signs, forget about what's happening with them, and just think about the numbers. How do I get from 5 to 10 to 20 to 40 to 80? Well, each time I know I'm multiplying by 2 because I'm doubling it. And then because the signs are changing, I'm multiplying by a negative 2. So my common ratio, r, is a negative 2 because each time I'm flipping my sign, so it has to be negative, and they're doubling. Now, to find the a sub 0, the number that came before, I want to work backwards. So instead of multiplying by a negative 2, I'm really just going to divide by a -2. So -5 divided by -2, you can do that in your calculator if you need to, and it might give you a decimal, it might give you a fraction. I'm going to keep mine as a fraction, as a positive 5/2. If you do 2.5 as a decimal, that's fine as well. Either way, doesn't matter. So 5/2 is my a sub 0 when I work backwards to figure this one out. So now to put my entire equation together, it looks like y equals a sub 0 goes first, remember, so that's the 5/2 or 2.5, either way. And then my r always has to go inside of parentheses, that's the number -2. And then x here is my exponent, and it just stays as an x. And that is my equation for my geometric sequence. Okay, last one that we're going to try together. With this case, we're going down. You may have noticed it starts really high at 400, then it goes down to 200, 150, etc. So we are multiplying, but this time, because we're going down, each number is being cut in half. So I'm multiplying by 1/2 or by 0.5. So my common ratio is multiplying by 1/2. It's half of the number that came before it. To work backwards with this one, again, it could be kind of tricky to think about. Instead of multiplying by 1/2, I'm really just going to divide by 1/2. Or you can think, instead of cutting each number in half, I would just double it to go backwards. So 400 doubled is really 800. That would be the number that came before it. So my a sub 0 this time is the number 800. It's okay if it's kind of large, it's fine. So my equation looks like y equals my a sub 0, which is 800. And then don't forget, inside of those parentheses, my r is 1/2, and then it's just to the power of x. And that would be my geometric sequence equation for this formula. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. You guys are going to try examples 4 through 7 on the next page. And then don't forget to take a picture of both pages, the notes, and those 4 problems that you did, and post them onto Classroom. And then your answers will be posted next class. Thanks, guys.